Hey everyone, in today's video we are going to unbox and review a pen display that Gearbest has sent over. Inside this non-discrete box is a Veikk VK1560. So let's unbox this and check it out. You know what, to save you some time, I have already unboxed everything. So let's go through the items one by one. By the way, if you want to save even more time, you can check out the text review that I have already written. The content in the text review and this video review is exactly the same. Okay, here we have a card that tells you where you can download the driver. This is the quick start guide. This is the power cable. Now on Gearbest website, you can choose the appropriate connector for your country. And this side will go to the power brick. And this will go to power the pen display. This is the stylus pen. It's quite obvious. This pen, it doesn't require any battery. There's no button at the back, no eraser, two side buttons here. The texture on the pen, it's matte. It feels really nice to hold. Overall, the pen, it feels a bit plasticky, and because it's plasticky, it's very lightweight. And included in this box are 10 replacement tips. And this 6 replacement tips, they are sort of like rubber tips. So you have more friction on the surface when you're drawing. And these 4 gray tips here, they are hard tips, so they glide a bit more easily on the screen. So if you need something a bit smoother, if you want to draw faster, you go for the hard tip. If you want to draw a bit slower, if you want more control, you can use the rubber tips. And this is the nib remover. This is a mini display port to HDMI port adapter. This is a HDMI cable, full-size HDMI ports on both sides. This is a USB cable to connect the pen display to your computer so that your computer can detect the pen display and the pen. And lastly, we have an Artisul glove. Here's a closer look at the pen display. Now this is a 15.6-inch screen. Resolution is 1920 by 1080. So it's Full HD, 108p. 7 buttons on the left side, actually 8 if you include this button here in the middle of the control dial here. And on the right side, this is interesting. They have built the pen holder into the pen display. By the way, this pen, it supports up to 8000 levels of pressure sensitivity. So it's very easy to keep the pen here and take it out. It snaps right in with a loud click. And when you first take out the pen display, it comes with this screen protector already applied onto it. This is actually a protective film that protects the actual screen protector. Let me peel this off. What you're looking at right now is the actual screen protector. So this is a matte surface screen. The overall design is very simple, very minimalist. We have the brand in front. Let's take a look at the back. This, by the way, is very lightweight. So on the back, it's all plasticky, matte surface. We have the stand built into the display. With some other pen displays, this is actually detachable, so this is not VESA mountable. This is the latch that controls the angle of the pen display. And we have the physical menu buttons for the screens on this side. And here, on this side, we have the HDMI, the power, and this is the USB port. This is the highest angle you can go without the screen toppling. This is almost vertical. So when you release the latch, you can put it all the way down, and this is the lowest angle. I've just connected the pen display to my Mac. Let's take a look at the price of this pen display on Gearbest. Gearbest is an online store that sells a lot of electronic items, among other things, and occasionally they will run some sort of promotion. Now the price of this pen display range from $340 to $360. It's now a bit cheaper because of the promotion that's going on, but the usual price is US $360. Alright, this is the Windows driver. I am not going to show you the Mac driver because I don't have any issues with that, but I have several issues with the Windows driver. Okay, so this is where you can customize the pen buttons on the side. You can assign different keyboard shortcuts to it, different types of mouse clicks, and also assign certain special functions. For example, here I have assigned this function called monitor switch. Now, if you are using an extended monitor, you have another screen by the side of this screen. When you click the shortcut, the cursor will switch from this screen to the other screen. So this is incredibly useful, but it does not work with the Windows driver for some reason. So that's my first problem. And here you can adjust the click sensitivity of this pen. This pen supports up to 8,000 levels of pressure, so it's really sensitive. And I like that they have used this pressure curve instead of those slider, which I don't think it's as useful as the pressure curve. All right, for the next tab, we have mapping. So this is where you can choose to rotate the screen. So if you are a left-hander, you can choose to rotate the screen and have the physical shortcuts on the other side of the screen. If you are using extended monitor setup, you can actually click here, and this will allow you to map the working area of this pen display to that specific desktop. Right now, I'm only using this desktop because, as mentioned earlier, the mouse function switch, the monitor switch function, it doesn't work. So that's why I'm only using one single monitor. Now there is some parallax with the cursor. There's some offset with the cursor. The cursor doesn't appear directly beneath the tip. This is where you can calibrate the cursor, but it doesn't work for the Windows driver and it doesn't work for the Mac driver. Right now I'm at the bottom right area of the screen. Now there is some offset, so the cursor is not directly beneath the tip. It's actually very close but not directly beneath the tip. Now this offset, it's not there if you are working in the middle of the screen, somewhere in the middle, but as it moves to the right edge, the offset will become a bit bigger. So if you take a look at this, I'm not sure if you can see it. Now you can see that the offset is larger. Now this pen display, the glass surface is actually very close to the actual screen, so the parallax is very minimal. It's just that there is a cursor misalignment. It's there mostly in the outer edges. Despite the offset, I'm still able to draw pretty accurately. So right now I am drawing a cube. Just pay attention to whether or not I can join the lines without any misalignment, without any problems. So I'm still able to join the lines properly. If misalignment is a problem, I will not be able to join the lines at the intersections. We have talked about mapping and calibration. Let's move on to function. So this is where you can set specific keyboard shortcuts to the physical buttons on the side. Now you can create different sets of shortcuts. So for example, if you use Photoshop alone, you may want to create shortcuts just for Photoshop, and maybe you use ZBrush or Maya, you can create specific shortcuts. Just create another set here, a specific shortcut for those apps, so you can switch around when you are switching between apps. Alright, so here you can assign specific shortcuts to the buttons. To do that, it's very easy. Just click on the keyboard and enter the keys. You can also assign functions, launch applications. The monitor switch function is here as well. And there is this accurate mode, which is quite useful. If you click on the button, the mouse cursor will move very slow, allowing you to draw very accurately. And this is where you can assign functions to the dial. You can assign up to 4 functions to the dial, and when you press the button in the middle of the dial, it will switch between these 4 functions. Now I have a problem with setting keyboard shortcuts here. So for example, let me just clear this shortcut and clear this. So let's say I want to zoom. I want to have a control minus for a decrease. So I click control and I click minus. And for increase, I'm going to click control and click plus or equal sign. And I'm going to click confirm. And now when I go back to the same shortcut, you can see that the shortcut is no longer control minus, it's control minus and control plus. For increase, it's control minus and control plus. So obviously this shortcut is wrong and it doesn't work. The dial can still be used to change brush size and it works, but for zooming it doesn't work. So now I'm going to switch to zoom. You can see that shortcut label there, and I can scale down, but I cannot scale up. This happens with the default zoom function that I choose from the drop-down menu, which is this function here. Let's talk about the drawing experience now. I'm using the hard tip on the matte surface and it feels good when drawing on the surface. It's a bit smoother compared to the rubber tip, but it still offers plenty of control. Now the strokes, they come out just the way I want them to be. You can get thin to thick transitions very easily, and the transition is very smooth, not abrupt at all. And if you want the lines to taper, I'm glad to say that they taper very well, very gradually. Now this app that I'm using, this is Medibank Paint Pro on the Mac. I've already assigned keyboard shortcuts to the side buttons so that I can access the shortcuts easily, so let's test them out. So with the dial, I can change the brush size. So now I'm using a very thin brush. I have assigned undo to this button here, and it works. Now I'm going to click this button in the middle of the dial to switch it to zoom mode. And zoom doesn't work here on the Mac as well, even though in the driver it says that it's actually the zoom function, but here you can see no zoom, it's just changing the brush size. So I have to set zoom up and zoom down to two buttons here on the side, these two buttons. So now I'm zooming in and now I'm zooming out. The hand button is here, and this is the brush. Let's test for diagonal jitter. So I'm going to draw a diagonal line very slowly. Despite what I have said about the cursor offset, it is still reasonably accurate. So you can see here, slow lines, they have no jitter at all. If there's any wobble or jitter, it's actually because of my hand. And it's very difficult for me to get a consistently thick or thin line because it's difficult for me to control the pressure accurately. But this pen, it's very sensitive. Overall drawing experience is quite satisfactory. Medibank Paint Pro works really well. These are all the different graphic apps I have tested. Pressure sensitivity works really well with Medibank, and Clip Studio Paint. Pressure works with Affinity Photo, but the transition from thin to thick, it's a bit too abrupt. So you see here, the transition from thin to thick, this is actually quite abrupt for me. And here as well, you see this thick and quickly becomes thin again. With Medibank and with Photoshop, this transition is more gradual. And this happens for the Windows version of Affinity Photo as well. Pressure doesn't work with Adobe Illustrator, but you can get it working by installing Wacom Intuos driver. Pressure does not work with Krita for some reason. And yeah, that's all about all the apps that I've tested on the Mac. As for drawing performance on Windows, well, let me quickly run through the drawing apps that I have used on Windows. So this is Photoshop. By the way, this is the text review that I've written for the pen display. If you want to check out the text review and the sample pictures, the sample strokes, you can visit the link in the video description below. For Photoshop Windows, it works really well. Pressure sensitivity works fantastic. The lines, they can taper very gradually. The lines, they can transition from thin to thick very smoothly, very gradually. I have no problems drawing with Photoshop at all. So let me move down to Adobe Illustrator. There is some problem with Illustrator. There is some lag. So when I draw a stroke, that stroke doesn't appear until a split second later, and that is very irritating. So it's almost unusable in Illustrator, the Windows version, by the way. Krita on Windows work perfectly. We have pressure. So the Mac version of Krita doesn't work, but the Windows Krita, it works perfectly. We can get strokes to taper very well, very gradually. Transition between thin and thick, also fantastic. Also, when drawing circular or curves, The lines, they are very smooth. There's no angular parts to them, which is great. This is Sketchbook Pro, pressure sensitivity works. This is sketchable, pressure works as well. Affinity Photo on Windows has the same issue as it did on the Mac, so the transition between thin and thick, it's a bit abrupt. This is a bit too abrupt for me, so it's not as smooth compared to Medibank Paint Pro and Photoshop. And of course, if you want to take notes with this pen display, you can certainly do so. It's able to capture handwriting very accurately. Alright, let's talk about the warranty. I wasn't able to find any warranty information on Veikk's website. This is Veikk's website. I wasn't able to find any warranty information even in the FAQ section, and there is no support section as well. So if you have any problems with this pen display, you will have to go back to Gearbest. This is backed by a 1-year warranty. So to send this back, you have to pay for the shipping first. If it's a genuine problem, Gearbest will repair the product and then ship it back to you, and they will reimburse you your initial shipping cost. Now on Veikk's website, even though there is no support section, you can actually contact them through this little chat button here, so you can chat with them. I actually use this to tell them about the issues, the driver issues that I have faced, so they know about the driver issues already. So hopefully they can fix the driver, and the response of their support personnel is actually quite fast. They got back to me within a day or two. The price of this pen display is around US $340 to $360, depending on whether or not there is any promotion. For that price, I think it's a decent pen display. The build quality is alright. The finishing could be better, but overall it's very sturdy. The colors are actually quite good. I used the color calibrator to measure the color accuracy and managed to get a readout of 99% sRGB and 87% Adobe RGB. So the colors on this really quite good, and it has quite good brightness as well, so I'm able to see the colors quite vividly. The only downside is the matte screen protector. It actually affects the colors slightly. There is this very slight haze to it, because this screen protector is not totally transparent. I would say it's like 99% transparent, so you can see that haze. But other than that, I think the colors look great when you're viewing it straight on. Just that when there is some other lighting in your room, like the windows or the lights, then it can affect the colors slightly. But viewing angles, I think it's fantastic. Pen is very accurate, 8,000 over levels of pressure sensitivity, and you can keep the pen on the side. This is pretty convenient. Shortcut buttons, well, most of them work, but the control dial doesn't work that well because of the driver issues on both Mac and on Windows. As for drawing experience, it will have to depend on the apps that you use. So earlier I showed you some issues with certain apps like Krita on the Mac. It doesn't support pressure sensitivity, but on Windows, Krita works perfectly with pressure sensitivity. And on Windows, Adobe Illustrator has some lag, so that's a deal breaker. These are the two apps that I know of that has issues. The other apps, I think they work quite well, and overall my experience has been quite satisfactory, despite the fact that there is slight offset between the cursor and the pen tip. But that has never hampered me when doing illustrations, so not a deal breaker, but it would be good for Veikk, the company, to actually address the issue and fix their firmware, because this is definitely a driver issue. Because with the current driver, I'm not able to calibrate the pen cursor on both Windows and Mac. The last thing I want to mention is heat. So if you are using this pen display for hours, it's going to get warm at the top. Now certain pen displays, they get warm at the bottom, and that's usually the area where you rest your hands. So with this pen display, it gets hot at the top, which is great because usually hands are not there. And also, this is not a touch display, so you cannot use any finger gestures. You only can use the pen that's provided. At this price range and for the functionality that it provides, I think this is quite competitive with other brands. So that's all for my review today of the Veikk VK1560 pen display. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. If I have any updates to this video review, I will put the updates in the text review. The link will be in the video description below. Thank you for watching. I hope this video has been helpful. See you in the next video. Bye!